Do you think sales is a bad word? When you hear the word sales, I wonder what images come to mind. Whatever your relationship is with selling, I'm glad you are here. Let's have a conversation about how to sell like good humans. Hi, and welcome to Conversations with Good Humans. I am your host, Catherine Brown, author of the book, How Good Humans Sell. Today on Conversations with Good Humans, I'm talking with my friend and fellow good human who sells, Jason Cooper. Jason is a like-minded sales coach based in Dublin, Ireland. He also has his own podcast, The Global Sales Leader, on which I had the pleasure to be a guest. This recording was part of a Clubhouse discussion where Jason was invited to share what he planned to do with his own sales in the new year. I chose the conversation for the podcast because I loved hearing Jason's super succinct answer to the question about the role that personal development plays in sales success. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Jason, I'll share your links and contacts and give you a chance to talk all about that. So would you introduce yourself to us to kick us off? And also with that introduction, would you answer the question, to you, what does it mean to sell like a good human?
Thank you for that. And I'm loosely prepared today because I'm only just back off holiday and it seems like that everything has come in all at once. And I started back off from vacation yesterday. So lots of stuff to do. But I'm a sales relationship coach. I've been working in sales and marketing for probably about 25 years. As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm English, but after 17 years, I've been living and working in Dublin, Ireland, the Emerald Isle, as some people might say. An eclectic background of corporate and lots of startups. I've also co-founded 2 startups. One is in online fashion. You wouldn't tell that from the way I dress, but that's the way it is. And I've also co-founded a few online exhibitions and stuff like that. So about 6 to 7 years ago, I started to study about being a coach and using and utilizing all of my sales skills and sales strategies around that. And just to really focus that over the last 2 or 3 years, mainly just before we went into lockdown, I rebranded myself as a sales relationship coach. And the reason I did that is because everything is about relationships. Everything that we do when we build and nurture and cold call businesses, we want to make a relationship with that end user, that client, and hopefully that potential client. So really, my whole strategy is really behind behaviors of how people and how salespeople work and the psychology behind that. So I've studied lots of eclectic ways around that of neuroscience, psychology, behavior economics, neurolinguistic program. I've even studied hypnosis, really more for the language and the linguistics around that, not to put people into a trance, but really understand the behaviors, how people work. So with this, over the last few years, and thank you, Catherine, for welcoming me into this group, because how humans sell, it is about connection. It is about trust. It is about that relationship. And what I liked and what I loved about your book, it is that connection, and it's that connectionability with the other person. And it is about rapport. It is about trust. It is about understanding other people from their empathetic point of view. It's not about us. We have all of these wonderful tools and strategies and whatever else, but it's about your customer. So the more you understand your customer by asking some really wonderful, smart questions and listening to understand, the better that you're going to be more relatable to them. Hopefully that was an answer to a very short question. So thank you for that.
Jason, thank you so much for that. I did not realize that the sales relationship coaching was rebranded right before the pandemic. Of course, you couldn't have known that was going to happen. So That was really great timing. Would you also mention the interviews and podcasts you do? I want to make sure that our early listeners who might not be able to spend the full hour in conversation with us know where to find you on that. And then I'm going to go to Yoram next.
Yeah, I've over the last 18 months, I started my podcast. I thought I'd just push myself out of my comfort zone and interview global leaders. I started off interviewing coaches, mentors, psychologists on my Mindful Leadership podcast, where I originally started. And then I re-pivoted to the Global Sales Leader podcast. And I've been recognized as in 2021 podcast on sales leadership to watch out for in 2021. Now we're in 2022. I want to be going up the ladder with that. The reason why I do it is so I can learn from experts around the globe. And if it takes off, which it has done, and it's done really well, I can share my knowledge when I train and coach people. So that's really the fundamental behind it. And obviously yourself, Catherine, I interviewed yourself because I understand that I know that you're an expert in what you do. So I learn from the likes of yourself and everyone else that I've interviewed, the likes of the son of the legendary Zig Ziglar, Tom Ziglar. I've interviewed him twice actually, and I've phenomenal amount of learning. Neuroscience, a lot of experts in the areas of neuroscience, which I love. And now I do LinkedIn Live as well as doing my podcasting, which I already love. And last year and this year, I've been awarded. I don't know how I've been awarded this, but I will take it by Corporate Vision magazine as the sales relationship expert in Ireland as a trainer and a coach. So I'll take that on the chin. I'll have that as well. So I always appreciate that, but I'm also very humbled by that as well. So if I get recognized for stuff, I always appreciate it.
So one of my favorite things to do, Jason, is to assemble groups of people who are like-minded. I look back and my mother has a picture that she used to share that my fifth grade teacher took during a class party. And I'm literally sitting in the middle of the class and I'm like holding my punch up, like as if I'm saying cheers, to the teacher. And I am in the middle of the class. It's hilarious. It is a hilarious picture. But you are so good at this too. And the reason I want people to know, like-minded people, to know about the podcast is because I'm sharing my little secret here, which is I follow very closely who you interview, and then I just go follow them and read everything they do. So I let Jason and who he chooses inform my reading list and whom I follow on LinkedIn and on other platforms because you're such a good chooser, Jason. So I really want to recognize that and to encourage others to do that because they will learn so much about human motivation, leadership, emotional intelligence, and how to sell if they do that. So thank you for that. Thank you for the work you've done. And I'm so glad you're being recognized for that. Yoram, I want to give you a chance to also speak, to introduce yourself briefly. And what would you like to ask Jason?
My name is Yoram Stone. I'm speaking to you from another cold day in New York City. Although, as you can tell by my accent, like Jason, I started off my life in the UK. And I am got a lot of experience in SaaS sales, and I'm very lucky to have an amazing wife and two beautiful children who slept through the night. Woohoo! And Jason, I had another question prepared, but just something you said got me thinking. There's actually something I was discussing the end of last year, and I do believe you're right. Salespeople should, it's amazing actually. This pandemic has helped me achieve something where I felt I was meeting the same type of people over and over again. Great people, but by choice. But the pandemic has sort of forced me to bust out my shell, be it geographically or the same kind of people. So I've met a lot of people online, including everybody in this room. But I also got me thinking, most of our knowledge comes from other salespeople. We read, I'm just looking now at my bookshelf, a whole lot of sales books, and I'm starting to think about, what can I learn from the world around me? So I'm trying to think, if you're somebody, your advice to salespeople, apart from reading sales book and listening to your podcast, which I highly recommend as well, how do you go about expanding your horizons? What should you be looking for in the world outside sales, which is going to help you be a better salesperson, close more deals, and more importantly, do a better job for your clients?
I would be cheeky enough to reach out to people and ask them questions, whether it's by LinkedIn, whether it's by your favorite person or leader. I've reached out to loads of people in the past via LinkedIn, say, look, I'm a bit stuck here, but I need your insights. I know you're a CEO, but I'd love to understand where you see a question that I pose to them. And I've done that loads of times. And I always like to be quite humbled by asking the question because, look, people are more giving than you actually you think sometimes, especially in this room. It's awesome because people answer lots of questions that you might be stuck in. But sometimes you have to be like, throw your ego to one side and go, look, I'm a bit stuck here. Could you help me here? I ring up people, my friends, all the time, my network of coaches, my network of trainers. I belong to a school of facilitation, which I meet up once a month. And like we ask questions about how can we facilitate better. So don't ever be afraid to ask a question, whoever they are, because people will come back to you. That's my point of view, and I like to practice what I preach. It's all about that relationship. If you can build a relationship with someone, happy days. And that's why I've done my podcast again, because I know I can reach out to every single person within my podcast who I've interviewed and ask them a question. And again, some of them become my friends now, and that's what I want to do. Hope that's sort of answered your question.
Do you know, it's not the answer I expected, which is what makes it so good. And I think it's so important for all of us not just to do the obvious, but actually listen to different ways to approach things. And it's incredible. I never thought to just reach out to, I've got loads of friends who buy from salespeople. I should be reaching out to them and just asking them what they like and what their experiences are and what their challenges are. And I guess after a while, you get a picture.
I think that's a great idea, actually, reaching out to buyers, because you might want to ask them, what makes you want to buy from a salesperson? What gives you the insights? I think that's a great thing to do. So again, I'm going to steal that. So thanks for that, Yoram.
No, with pleasure. I mean, this is what this room is about. It's getting each other to think and getting us to think for ourselves about new ways we can be better at what we do. I love it.
Rick, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself and to ask Jason some questions.
Hey, good morning. Pleasure to be with you. My name is Rick Janezic. I run a company called Strike Zone Sales Systems. We're a management consulting company focused on really everything that's customer facing, from product development all the way through to customer success, land and expand, and retention. Jason, you and I have had the opportunity to chat before. It's been a real pleasure. And I'm curious, as you look at who you want to interview, that's a portfolio. And I'm big on something I call selection science, and that's the mechanics that you use to actually choose what you do. It could be a partner, a relationship, a client to pursue, a degree to go after, whatever it is. It's the selection piece that's really crucial, and that's why I think what separates winners and extraordinary people from others. So as you take a look at who you want to interview, bring us into, do some open source with us in terms of how do you take a look at who to go and interview? I'd be fascinated with your answer.
First off, I see if they can connect with me, then have a conversation online with them and find out what they're about. And obviously, check their profile out, seeing what they've done, check their website out, check their Twitter profile out. I'm looking for someone that's humble, someone with a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, and someone that's interactive. I did make one mistake out of, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but there's no one here. And they didn't, I got them as a guest and I asked them to connect and share and do everything, and they didn't. and they're still not connected with me, which I find extremely frustrating. But because if I interview them, I want to gain knowledge for the listeners and listenerships. But if they're not willing to throw that content out afterwards, then it defeats the object of social proof. Social proof of me, but social proof of them, because it's all about everyone gaining some knowledge. So someone that really surprised me was Chris Croft. I thought he was incredible. For people that don't know him, check him out. He is the number one trainer on LinkedIn Learning, but also Udemy. It's just absolutely fascinating. It was so good. We went on for an hour and 20 minutes, and I had to split it up into 2 episodes. And it was 8 characteristics of success. So those types of people that I love, that are engaging and give wonderful insights, but also ask for recommendations as well. But I do get people emailing me all the time with people that I want to interview, and I'm pretty strict with who it is and if they can add value forward, depending on their an eclectic background. If they got various good experience of business and sales and strategy and knowledge, so they have to have a different point of view from everyone else that I've spoken to. Hopefully that answered some of your question.
It does. I've got one follow-up for you, if you wouldn't mind. If there's one person that you'd love to interview, I mean,
there you go, Brian Tracy. Brian Tracy. I've asked everyone if he can get me. I've emailed him. I've got him on Clubhouse. I've tweeted him. Brian Tracy is the. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I knew the answer straight away. Brian Tracy is my number one person I do want to interview. He has been on my tapes for the last 20 years when we had tapes and CDs. I've learned huge amounts from him. So yeah, that's my goal and that's my target of someone I love to just have a conversation. And I think it's just a conversation with these people, and I treat it like a conversation down the pub or a cafe. Just really open and honest conversation and let people talk.
I'll work on that for you.
Yeah, anyone, if you can get hold of Brian Tracy for me. I've asked Tom Ziegler if he can connect with me to Brian, because I know he knows him, and a few other people. And but apparently he's getting a little bit frail and slightly old a bit, so he might not. Other than that is Ken Blanchett, who's my number 2.
Rick, thanks for that thoughtful question. And I love, Jason, that you knew exactly what you wanted from for that guest appearance. I heard a really cool statement the other day that I'll share with you. Then I'm going to do a quick reset, and then I'm going to ask you a question, Jason, and then I'm going to invite Susie to speak next. I heard an executive coach talk recently about this phrase, as if, that we act as if something is true so that we step into it. We believe as if something is true. We're thinking about our aspirational identity, who we want to become as professionals, who we want to become in our personal life, how we want our relationships to exist. And he said, I like to coach people to think and talk as if. So as you were talking, Jason, I was thinking, I wonder if there's an opportunity for a little tweak there where you say, someday soon I'll have Brian Tracy, right? Or someday soon I'll have like a little bit more as if, because I think you will. I think you will. Does that make sense?
I use visualization. I also meditate as well. So I visualize stuff as if there you go, that it was actually happening. But I actually understand that Brian Tracy has been a bit ill, and I have been told that. So yeah, I will keep on persisting with him until he's well enough to speak with me. So it will be this year.
Jason, one of the things I feel like has come up as I've listened to your podcast is this idea of bringing your whole self to selling. And so my question for you is, what is something in 2022 that you would encourage your clients, your friends, your community to do And what are you practicing that is not about professional development, but is more on the personal development side, something that you think helps you really show up regularly, that you plan to continue in 2022? I'd love to hear about that.
I can be very simple and very succinct, is be yourself. That's it. Carry on being myself. Don't pretend to be someone that you're not. The more that you're yourself, the more of your personality that you can project, the more likable that you will become. So that's as simple as that, really. I've got nothing else to add to that. It's just be yourself.
Thanks, Jason. So I'll go to Susie next. Susie, I'll let you, please introduce yourself and let you ask about that, or there might be something else you have been thinking about as we've been talking.
Thanks so much, Catherine, and to everyone on stage. Great to be here. For those who don't know me, I'm Susie Mathieson, and I'm a sales trainer and coach based in Germany. And I usually train in the German language. Of course, you can hear I originally come from England, so I'm able to do it in English too, but I typically work with clients in the German language. And I'm just really enjoying this conversation, and what Jason said about be yourself and be, bringing your whole personality to work and everything. But also something that I really, really admire about Jason is his thirst for knowledge, and he's talked about that already on stage, and how he's, in my opinion, and what I see from Jason and what he's confirmed is that he's always learning. He's always wanting to hear from other people. He's always interested in that connection, that exchange of information. And just a really fascinating person, Jason. And I just wanted to say two things. One is that the power of networking and the power of Clubhouse. So whilst we've been talking, I've had a message from Leon in the audience saying that you should definitely drop him a line, because his business partner's uncle is really high up in Ken Blanchard's company and should be able to put you in touch. So I know it's not your number one guest choice, but it's number 2 on there. So Jason, do reach out to Leon and he might be able to get you in touch with Ken Blanchard, which could be a good one for you. Hopefully that's good news.
I think I have Leon's number in my phone somehow, somewhere. We did have a conversation last year, so I will definitely reach out to you.
Fantastic. I'm really pleased. And that's the power of the network, and something I definitely believe in. So Jason, what the question I just had for you was to come back to all of this absorption of information that you have, and your ability to consume books the way you do, and to consume content the way you do. Now, you're blessed with this, but not everybody is. And some people, and I'll put myself into this category as well, are not so good, in inverted commas, at reading or consuming via reading. And so I wanted to ask, for those of us who are maybe short on time, or it's not the way we necessarily learn so much, what would be your one tip for something to give us an impulse into sales that would help us move along the way that isn't necessarily consuming a whole book in one go? What would be your tips for some people like that?
I think it's to do with habits, really. It's bite-sized chunks. You know as well as I do, when you play tennis, you had to start somewhere and bashing the ball over the net. That's I'm not practical in tennis, but you have to start somewhere, and you get better and better and better at doing it. It's like me when I run. I love running mountains. I'm not the fastest out there by no means, but I love to do it. And what I love to do is to learn. When I was younger, I was never that practical, but I just got a hunger and thirst for it. The older I get, the more knowledge I want to, and I just want to understand things from a practical point of view, whether it's by podcast or an audiobook, listening to other people. That's what I'm fascinated. How can I apply that to myself? And again, our answer from what Yoram said earlier is to pick up the phone and speak to other people that maybe have the knowledge. I spoke to a friend last night. So I posted him a question. He actually came back to me. He's from Dublin, but he's actually in Mexico at the moment. He came back to me a couple of hours later and said, look, I'm really stuck with this. What do you think? What's your perspective on this? And he came straight back to me and said, this is what my perspective is on this, and this is how you can maybe adapt that from that point of view. And I went, okay, well, I'll sleep on that, but thank you very much. So I absorbed that question, and then I just take it internally, not overly to procrastinate on things, but we all procrastinate at times, but just to actually act on it. So the ability to learn is just, if you're out on a walk, you listen to an audiobook, or if you're cycling like I do or running, I might have something else that I listen to. But I do make a habit of every morning I wake up, I read a book for about 30 minutes to just get my mind set for the day. And I do that Monday to Friday every single day. And it's just those bite-sized chunks, and then you can devour a book in no time at all. That's the way I work, but doesn't work for everyone. You just find the right space and the right time that you can actually sit down. I have kids. As soon as 2:30 hits, they'll be home kicking and screaming. I have to focus my time on them. Just find your quiet space, your quiet time, just to learn something that you're passionate about and stuff that you love. And we all love sales in here, so pick up something that is interesting within the realms of that. That's the way I look at things.
Thanks, Jason. I really appreciate that. And I love the fact that you do your reading when you wake up in the morning, right? So you do it one of the first things you do before you get out of bed. Do you do it in bed?
No chance.
Okay.
No, I get up. The key thing is not to get distracted by technology. Get up, shower, do whatever you need to do, get the kids out, and then have that 30-minute space. I normally, around about 7:30 to 8-ish, I read, and then I either take the kids to school or my wife does, but I have to have that 30 minutes. And the book I'm reading at the moment, The Success Factors, is absolutely incredible. Started this morning and I really love it. So I'm going to apply a lot of the learnings in there.
Jason, I really appreciate that you mentioned that you have adjusted your whole day's routine around that. And I recognize there's different chapters in people's lives. Sometimes they just have the nature of their family is that they would have to get up at 4 a.m. in order to read before work, and they're just not willing to do that. And that's okay, right? There's freedom there. But I think when you constantly, you have this fresh start with a new year where you have a chance to say, what do I want that routine to look like? And this is about halfway through last year. I did that as well. I started saying, you know what? I'm self-employed. These are my meetings. This is my company, and I can take responsibility for the fact that I want to make time to do this more. And again, that's not said I'm not saying that to be in judgment of anybody else based on what they have going on or whether, to Susie's point, they consume content that way. But I wanted to be a better reader, and so I actually set a timer and I read a minimum of 20 minutes. I know that's not very much, but you will get through a number of books a year if you do that plus the audio. And so I have a couple books going at a time. And it also, not only does it feed your creativity, it gives me ideas about content. So right now, for example, I'm reading through Brene Brown's latest book, Atlas of the Heart. And I really appreciate the work she's done on this because she's identified 87 words that she is teaching on through the book because she feels like people have a low vocabulary about emotion. And how can we talk about things like emotional intelligence in selling if people have 5 words for emotions, which actually most people do: happy, sad, angry, etc. So that's an example where it just stimulates my thinking too. So really appreciate what a great learner you are with that. So, all right, let me do a quick reset again. We're coming to the end of our time, but I want to give people a chance. I'm going to allow you to just unmute, ask Jason whatever you'd like about his 2022, pick his brain. I'll go unmute, and we'll be in popcorn style for the rest of this time.
Hey, Jason. Best advice that you've ever received and the most frequent advice you give. I'll let you go to either one of those two or your favorite expression. And if you want to do all three, that would be a bonus.
Yeah, Rick, when I first started out into sales, if you ever get stuck in a conversation, is always ask another question. one of the things that always stuck in my mind from one of my very first mentors when I was working in the City of London, and I was selling photocopiers back then. And when I first one of the hardest and toughest jobs I've ever had to do, but the mentor that helped me and supported me, and it was about 30, 40 years older, and he was recruited back into the organization. He just said, if you're ever stuck, ask another question. If you're ever stuck in again and you freeze, ask another question. I don't generally freeze anymore, but it's really good advice, and it's really stood me every single way, because the more you can ask about them, the better you can open up the conversation, and you can intently listen to what they say. Stuff that I say now is to find your passion, find your purpose, find what you love to do. I found in my career some sales jobs I went into and I really didn't like, and I really couldn't sell it. And then you just repivot and you find out something that you love to sell, but you also love to work with the clients that you work with. That's why I love what I do now, because I think I found my passion in life, and it's taken me an awful long time to find out what I love to do. But now I love to do what I'm doing. I love coaching. I love to see the little sparkle in people's eyes. I love to train people. And then just before this, I was just on a training call, and before that, I was on a coaching call. I just love to do it, and it just makes my day that I can see the progress in people, that they're moving from one place to the next, and I always ask them what inspires them, what motivates them. That's really where I like to start, getting their mind and their mindset correct in the first place, and then start building them up from there. That's always what I love to do, and especially now.
Jason, I just go back to something you mentioned earlier about motivation. I know you've spoken about this. So Susie got me thinking about this, because, we're saying, oh, is it too late to say Happy New Year? No, it isn't. Right now, this is a time where everybody's buzzed, everybody's psyched. It's a new year. I'm going to turn this around. Maybe the end of this pandemic might be in sight this year. Who knows? You've got this energy now. The challenge is more in a couple of weeks' time, in mid-February, March, where it's the middle of the winter, depending on where you are. You're just back into the grind of things. How do you just keep yourself constantly motivated? How have you done that? Because I know you're one of these people who's always driven. How do you keep yourself motivated and driven?
I think New Year's resolutions are a heap of crap, and they don't work. You should be doing stuff in December to get yourself excited for 2022. The amount of times that you hear in January, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to be doing this. That's great and that's fantastic, but you should have already thought about that in 2021. You should have already planned your success in 2022. You should already know where you need to be going. So you hit the ground running, or you've already got the ground running already. So once it turns 1st of Jan 2022, you know exactly what you want to be doing. Planning and strategy and everything else should have already been done. Don't leave it until New Year's resolution and all that other bullshit and whatever else. We've all done it, but it doesn't work because you already should have done it already. You should have already planned that. You should have already had your motivations set out, your agenda for 2022 already set out in advance of that. I think Catherine and I spoke about this way back, and it should have been done way back anyway. If you're in retail and or whatever, they plan 3 months ahead. They plan 6 months ahead, so they know what's going into the shops already. They bought all the stuff, so they plan that within their strategy. And it's the same as ourselves. We should have already planned this to get excited about 2022 and beyond. February, March, April, May, July, whenever it is, it's to keep that motivation going, because you know exactly what you want to get. You know what exactly your targets, you know your plan, your actions, what you're going to do on a week-to-week basis. So that should have already been done. That's the way I always look at things. I just think New Year's resolutions don't work. It should have already been done. If you're exercising, if you're in a health buzz, you want to stop drinking or whatever it might be, maybe you should have done that in December. Maybe if you want to start exercising and running, maybe you should have started that in November. And then you're ready and hitting the ground running. You're going a bit faster in January, February, March when it's a bit quieter. That's the way I think, because by learning that over many years, I just know it doesn't work that way. So that's my thoughts behind it. But I'm interested to find out how you think about that as well, Yoram.
I think I'm in agreement. It dawned upon me that you should really start your New Year's resolutions in Q4 and start trying to make them happen then in Q4 of 2021. Because come Q1, January 2022, you already got some practice. It's like you want to go from zero to, full throttle in one go. It just doesn't work. But I like what you say as well about breaking it down and having, not just having this resolution, but actually broken down almost by week or almost by day, that each week, each day, each month, you're taking yourself that step closer. And I think that probably leads me on to a quick follow-up question. I think one of the biggest problems people have is they try to do too much at once, or they just come up with a goal because everybody's doing it. It sounds good, but really they should be focusing on something else, which is actually going to push them, but is achievable. So I guess a follow-up question is, yes, you're right. A resolution by itself is not going to work, but there's some good energy around. Let's build on that energy. Let's maybe try and think of a way that we can actually have a goal and something we can work on consistently throughout the year. How would you recommend somebody go about thinking about what can make the biggest difference to their life? What should they really be focusing on?
That's a big question. Focus on themselves first, but just do it in bite-sized chunks, or do it by the 1%, the James Clear way of building up a habit. You just do the 1% every day, and over 365 days, that's 365%. So just do stuff gradually if you want to retain and build a habit. As we know, 21 days to build a habit doesn't work. It's actually 66 days to actually maintain and create a habit that is life-changing. But I think everything that we do is consistent, and consistency. If you're posting on LinkedIn, you have to be consistent. If you're doing a podcast, you have to be consistent. If you're practicing what you preach, you have to be consistent in exactly what you're saying, and you have to show up every day and believe what you're saying is true, because you're completely congruent with what you say and how people can actually recognize what's actually. Because we're audio here, you can probably hear a little bit more of a passion in my voice. But if you're actually seeing me, it's all congruent because I believe it to be true. So I think you have to look internally as well as externally to make that work both. But people can actually see whether you are congruent or not.
You've got me thinking. I wonder if it's a matter of developing a habit. Maybe we should work on something which may not be, rather than just think about, oh God, what's going to totally transform my life, is just try and come up with something, be it, like you said, drinking a little less, exercising a little more. I love the one that you said, just finding half an hour to read something or 20 minutes to read a book that's going to help you grow. It doesn't have to be the most amazing book to begin with, but just get into that habit. Keep doing that, say, till March. And then you got into the habit of having a habit to improve yourself. I can't think of the best way to put it, but I think you'll get my gist. I'm going to stop now.
The point I was going to make, if you can take one thing out of everything that you do, I think it's always worth doing. One conversation, if you get 1 point out of it, of what you've learnt, I think that's incredible. I've always thought that, and there's no such thing as a waste of time. If you can get one thing out of it, then it's worth your weight in gold.
I've got a follow-up question for you, Jason, if you wouldn't mind. You seem to be a guy who is always on. Every time I hear you, you're very engaged, very energetic, and it transmits through your voice. So most people at some point find themselves not where they want to be from an energy perspective, from a focus perspective. Is there a tip or a trick or a saying that you use? How do you help yourself get to the energy level and to the focus that you want to be if you find yourself drifting away? Or some people call it a rut. There's a variety of different expressions, but you know when you're not where you want to be. What do you personally do, and what would you suggest that others consider doing? Thank you.
Look, I suffer from tinnitus, and I don't know if you know if you have it or don't.
Catherine and I and a couple of other folks were remarking about that yesterday. I've got that too.
Yeah, it's well, you know it. Then it causes clouded, foggy heads. I just have to I'm getting a little bit of it now, but I think you just have to take yourself out into green space. I tend to go for a walk or something like that, or even close my eyes or try and meditate or do something just to stop the noise, because it can be distracting at times. That's why I have to be a focused listener, because if I don't, the whistling irritates me. So I really have to focus hard. Energy, if I'm in the room, something that Nigel Risner told me last year or the year before, if you're in the room, be in the room, regardless of whatever else is happening in your life. You just have to focus and just use all of your energy strategically for that hour, that 2 hours, that 3 hours, whatever you're doing. Then once you come off, take yourself away off the situation, off the screen or whatever, go out into get some fresh air and then come back to it. Just take some time out. I think it's called the Pomodoro technique, where you prioritize your time of energy, and then once the energy is done, you finish and you go away and you do something else. That's why I like to do exercise. I love running, because it just takes me off into different headspace, and it just clears all my mind of all the crap that's gone on in that day, all the good, bad, or indifferent, so I can refocus myself back to it. And Susie, I know that you play tennis, and you're probably exactly the same. It refocuses you in a different way and allows you to concentrate on something else.
Absolutely agree with you there, Jason. And I also, the Pomodoro technique is typically what you do there is you set a timer for 25 minutes to concentrate and focus on a task. And if you get sidetracked from that task, you hit pause on the timer and you come back to it, and then you hit play again on the timer. So you're focusing on that. And then you go off, like you said, and you do something completely different. So check your messages, go for a walk, whatever it might be. So it's a really good technique to look into to help with focus. I definitely agree there. But I did just want to add a comment, if I may, about your challenge to not reset in January, but do it in December instead. And I've just taken on a new client, a large American client, and their year runs from February the 1st to February the 1st. And it was really interesting because I came on board with working with them in mid-December, and it was just like normal. Like nobody was winding down. Nobody had either hit or not hit their targets for the year, because their targets were set until the end of Jan. And so it was a really, really different feeling for me to be working in this company, and there was a real energy there as well, which you don't typically have if you've got a year that you run from January to the end of December. So I just wanted to say I completely agree with you there. And working with this new client of mine, completely already seeing the benefits of not working a classic 12-month calendar, like we all know. So thanks so much for bringing that up as well. I thought that was a really good point, Jason.
And something else I'm going to do regularly now is take the first week off of January. Never done it before. And this time last week, I was laying by the pool listening to this club. And I just found it awesome to do it. Just take a week off just after Christmas. But I'd never done it before. So opened my eyes to just laying back and just chilling and devouring a couple of books. One was called The Strategy Book by Max McLaren. Found it incredibly good, and I devoured it, and plus devoured a online book as well at the same time. So just give yourself a little bit of time. Don't be so hard on yourself. I always find is good.
Thanks, Jason. You could probably have a whole other blog that's just all of your book reviews, information that you pass along, because you're great at that. So really want to encourage you to follow his podcast. Really want to encourage you to follow him. You can find him at jasoncooper.io. Jason, anything else you'd like to say as an offer or call to action or anything else as we wrap up?
I'd just like to say thank you very much for having me on today. Thoroughly enjoyed it, as always. I really appreciate everyone in the room. So it's great to have wonderful connections here. So appreciate that. So
thank you. We appreciate you and your commitment to help people be better relationship builders, especially sales professionals and other kinds of leaders. And so I really want to encourage everybody to follow Jason and follow the other moderators here. They're all people who have been handpicked because they bring so much value to the business world, serving all different kinds of industries, all different size businesses with different kinds of training and consulting. So they're all certainly worthy of your following and sharing what they're doing. Thanks, Jason. I'm so glad you joined us today. If you would like me to come and speak with your organization about how to sell like a good human, please contact me through the website howgoodhumanssell.com. Thanks, and talk with you again.